Robbo.
Streaming across the globe, Ben Norris, Rob McKnight, and David Robinson.
Ben, Rob, and Robbo. News, reviews, entertainment too. It's the Ben, Rob, and Robbo. Ben, Rob, and Robbo Show. Ben, Rob, and Robbo Show.
Welcome to the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. Here's Rob McKnight.
Hello and welcome to the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. It's another big week and by gosh, there's a lot happening. Hello, David Robinson. Hello, Ben. Robbo, did you have a good weekend?
I certainly did, Rob. Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here. So much stuff to talk about. And we're all looking very nice. I mean, I'm wearing a tablecloth, but we're all looking very nice, I think.
No, see, I never would have said that, Robbo.
Yeah, sorry about that. I still like it, whatever. How are you, Ben?
I'm good. I would never look that good in a tablecloth, if I'm honest.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, it's nice to see you two getting along so lovely after the bish bash of last week, but I certainly hope there's
Well, the show hasn't started yet. Yeah, the show hasn't started yet. Yeah.
I was going to say, just wait. I just tweeted who's going to throw their toys out of the pram first, so my bet's on me.
Probably me. We've got a huge lineup of guests coming up this week. Today we are going to meet the underwater miner who searches for gold. Her story is absolutely extraordinary. Emily Rydell is from the program Bering Sea Gold, and seriously, you just need to meet this woman. Her adventures you just won't believe them. We're also meeting a MasterChef contestant, the one who was eliminated last night, Tracy. Tomorrow we've got Jessica Rowe. Wednesday, Dave Hughes. And Thursday, Warwick Thornton. Now, he was the cinematographer on the Sapphires. He's also directed other movies, but he has gone into self-imposed isolation because he just wanted to get away with everything. We're going to meet him on Thursday. But, guys, I have to be honest, I actually have already pre-recorded the interview with Jessica Rowe this morning. I actually cried. I think we've got some footage here. Robbo's rolling his eyes, but these are genuine tears. I didn't cry. I teared up. But yes, Robbo, you'll find out why tomorrow, why I'm such a big sook. Although you probably don't.
Let's all cry. Let's all cry. What do I need to do for attention?
But seriously, this was an amazing chat. I really, really loved this chat, and I really got emotional during it. So, yeah, one to watch tomorrow, I think. But we've got a big show today, so let's get into our hot topics. And first to a show that I accidentally saw over the weekend on Channel 10 on Friday night. What you're about to witness is one of the most powerful pieces of television I've ever seen. And a warning, some of the material is distressing.
Hello, it's North West Ambulance Service here. Just tell me exactly what's happened.
I've killed my wife.
You've killed your wife?
Yeah.
Okay, just tell me exactly what happened. What exactly has happened?
She's got dementia.
Yeah.
Can't walk.
Right.
Incontinent.
Okay.
And I can't cope.
Okay.
I've killed her.
Right. Are you with the patient now?
Yeah.
Right. How old is the patient?
86.
Were any weapons involved?
Only a lump of iron.
A lump of iron. Okay. Is there any serious bleeding?
Not really.
Are you right by her now?
No, she's in the bedroom.
Are you able to go to her with the phone?
No.
You can't go to her? What's stopping you from going to her?
What do you want to know?
I just want to try and help her.
She's dead.
She's dead. Okay, we're sending you some help right away. We're going to get there as quickly as we can, okay?
How he's done it? What's he done?
He's hit her with a bar and smothered her.
Door, don't ruin it.
Say that again, sorry?
There's a little girl's party next door. Don't use sirens and spoil it.
Okay, well, we just need to come and help her as quickly as we can.
She's dead. That's all there is.
Okay, we're going to get some help there as soon as we can.
Thank you.
Powerful stuff. After doing a bit of research, I found out this story had caused quite a stir when it first aired in the UK, obviously for good reason. But there are a couple of issues I'd like to tackle here. First, Robbo, we really have to acknowledge the great work these frontline workers do. We always think about those actually out in the field, but we have to remember even the people at the call centres have to deal with horrible situations.
Yeah, that's right, Rob. That operator there said that you can't do that job without changing something in you, which obviously we could all understand when you're getting calls like that. I actually had a friend who her dad was a paramedic in the early 80s, and he has a kind of a different approach to it. He had to get out of it because what he thought of was that they were always waiting for something bad to happen. Otherwise, they were just sitting at the ambulance station. And that really affected him because he didn't want to be waiting for it or wanting it. And that eventually made him leave the service because of just kind of that pressure of waiting or wanting for something bad to happen. But you're right. These people at the front line, and really, they're the most frontline almost in certain situations because they're the first ones that then have to, alert the police and fire and ambulance and things like that. Very, very, very tough job. And the other thing with this unfortunate story, it's all too common where the partner of someone who has dementia resorts to taking their life because they can't cope or there's not enough support for them. It's a really sad situation for everyone involved.
Well, that is exactly the second issue I wish to discuss, and that is coping with dementia. Ben, listening to that man, it's obvious he was at the end of his tether. Should he go to jail or should we feel sympathy for him?
I felt like that clip was really emotional to watch. You really can't make a decision. I can't answer that question with just watching that amount of footage. My stepfather suffered from dementia and my grandmother suffers from dementia now. And what I do know about dementia is it is an incredibly horrible disease, and it is really hard on the people who are looking after them. My mum looked after my stepfather, and she continues to look after, or does all she can for my grandmother. And I know the pressure that these people are under, and in that situation, whilst it's very polarizing to watch, I honestly couldn't tell you whether or not that man should go to jail or not.
It's just not as simple. It's not simple, is it?
It's not simple. And the thing is, like, Robbo, you were saying before, about, that your friend's father stopped doing that job. There are people that are capable of doing those jobs. There are people who have that skill set. And I could never do it. And I think the three of us couldn't do it. But I champion those people all the time. They're so valuable. And I think taking those phone calls every day would be horrific and a lot to go through.
I certainly agree. Robbo, does this help the euthanasia debate in any way? Because obviously this man has taken drastic actions because he couldn't cope. She wasn't having a quality of life, I assume. And, he wouldn't have had to do this if legalised euthanasia was an option.
I think it's a really great question, Rob. I really do. It does do a lot for that. So he was saying she couldn't walk, she was incontinent, she was 86. I'm not advocating that people should do it, but as I said before, this story is all too common. This is happening too often, especially in the UK. Just this morning, I did a bit of research looking around, and there were a lot of cases where, unfortunately, one partner has done it to the other partner as almost like, A, they can't cope, and B, they don't have a quality of life, as you mentioned. In one case, the judge did take into account the fact that they had a loving marriage. It was all very sweet. He took care of her lovingly for 5 years. But in the end, like this guy, he snapped and couldn't cope. That was taken into account. He was given a 2-year suspended sentence. He didn't go to jail because all of those are the facts and those are the details that we need to take in. So if they were a part of an abusive relationship, just hypothetically, or, if they were living in squalor and all that kind of thing, then you would obviously take that into account, wouldn't you? But this is a really, really tough thing. An ex-friend of mine, I don't know why I said friend there, an ex-friend of mine, I wasn't ready
Someone
for that.
you don't like anymore.
Yeah, they were more than a friend. But anyway.
Yeah, I was about to say, I feel like we're talking relationship here.
Yes. So they had a grandfather whose wife had died, so his grandmother, yeah, okay, it was a boy, fine. I've never done that on air before.
Robbo,
Sorry, that's
you've
taking
just
away
outed yourself.
Welcome
it was
to
a phase.
the gay club.
Yeah, no, thank you. Sorry, we've got to get back onto this. The really sad thing is that the grandmother died and the grandfather had dementia. He would ask every day, "Where's his wife?"
Yeah.
And for the first, week or so, they said to him, "Well, Dad, Granddad, she's died," and he would collapse. Like, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. He would collapse and weep and cry. So in the end, they just said that she was on holidays. And so you've got to understand that it's very tough on the person who's got dementia. It's very tough on the people who are trying to care for them. I think, going back to your question, Robin, I've taken a very big detour here. But yes, going back to your question, I think this does add weight and does add fire to the euthanasia debate.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and it's just not a simple one. But it's amazing the TV you find on the Friday night, and I saw that scene on Channel 10, and wow, it really touched me. Let's move on. And Prime Minister Scott Morrison has rejected calls for Treasurer Josh Frydenberg to appear before the Senate's COVID-19 inquiry. Labor is pressuring the government to formally answer how the JobKeeper program has a $60 billion black hole. It was originally costed at $130 billion, but a reporting mistake, plus how many people claimed, has brought the cost down. As the Treasurer is not in the lower house, he is not compelled to front up to the inquiry. Ben, should we look at this as a good thing? The government has saved over $60 billion.
Yeah, they have saved quite a bit of money, which is great. But, it's $60 billion and it seems like a bit of an oversight, So I think something has gone a little bit awry there. I think at the end of the day, Penny Wong has requested that this be looked at. And Scott Morrison has come out saying, that's not the process. Maybe there needs to be a process there. Like, maybe that information needs to be made more clear to the Australian public about why an oversight of $60 billion can happen.
Look, I've been very vocal on the... Excuse me.
Bless you. Is it a cough or a
Sorry.
sneeze?
I've been
You're
very
back.
vocal on this program, Robbo, about the fact that I think the federal government has done a fantastic job with this crisis. I'm not overly concerned about the fact that they overestimated here. My concern is more to do with the fact that money could be used to get sectors that haven't been taken care of. We know that the arts sector has completely missed out because they're all freelancers. So that's a problem if you're not a sole trader. But the other thing here is, let's be honest, if this was in reverse and was against Labor, the coalition would be making so much noise about the fact that Labor can't manage the books, whether it's a positive or a negative. So, it's a bit rough to be calling it politics when they would be doing exactly the same thing.
100%, because that's the whole theme, isn't it, of the coalition, has been for years, is that they are better at balancing the books than Labor. So, yeah, you're right. If this was the other way around, they would go nuts for it, and it would be a political stunt, exactly what it would be. The thing is, what's happened here is that almost half of what they expected the workforce to apply for it hasn't applied for it. So that's why it was kind of over budgeted to $130 billion. It was also a problem with the way employers were reporting it. They weren't reporting single individuals. They were reporting as to how much they think they should get for those individuals. So those two things have collided and have gone, well, that's where we've lost the $60 billion. You'd think that the government would learn from sports rorts in the way of trying to shovel things under the carpet and move things around.
You love your sports rorts.
I do, but so this idea that Scott Morrison says, well, no, the Treasurer doesn't have to front up to an inquiry about this. This is all part of COVID-19. So why was it overestimated? Why did this happen? Why did that happen? He should obviously go before a Senate Estimates Committee, the COVID-19 inquiry, and I get really angry about this, is because I tell you this, politicians are not anointed by God. They're not born into the political family. Guess what? Newsflash, politicians, you work for us because we put you there and we pay for you. So
Sure.
If you've done something that this big, $60 billion, then yes, you should front up to an inquiry and be a big boy, put your big pants on, and go before them and answer the questions.
A couple of things.
Oh, here we go. A Frydenberg fan here, I think, everyone.
I'm a centrist and I'm fair-minded. Here's the thing. If he goes before a Labor-skewed Senate inquiry, it will be a witch hunt. There's no doubt about that.
But that's the point of opposition, though.
Sure. But here's the other thing. The ATO, the tax department, made this mistake, not Frydenberg specifically. The government has gone off information supplied by the tax office. I think it's a bit rough, and I'm all for playing politics and all that kind of stuff. I do think it's a bit rough to blame Frydenberg, whatever issues you've got with that man, I just don't know that you can really go after him on this one.
But he's the treasurer, though. He's the one in control of it. So if you don't want to be the person, I've said this before on another thing, if you don't want to get the compliments and you can't handle the criticism, then you can't get both. So he's the front man. Sure. He's the front of the thing. It's the same thing we said about Tracy Grimshaw in A Current Affair. She's the front person. Okay, so let's kind of skew this argument a little bit different now and go to the fact that you were right. So a lot of casuals have missed out. If you work for a foreign-owned company in Australia, you weren't eligible for JobKeeper. So there's all of these people that you rightly said, Rob, that have missed out on this payment, that maybe because they've overestimated, then it can be open up to that workforce.
Yeah.
The real challenge here, is whether JobKeeper or whether all of this worked, is how we recover from it. So they keep talking about this is not a wholesale change to JobKeeper, that it's going to stop on a certain date in September, that they're going to review it, obviously, before it gets there. But I think that's what they should be judged on, as to how all of this response was covered, as to how they take it away again. I understand you can't have a welfare state, of course, but there's got to be this idea that you can't just snap payments out from underneath everyone and go and get a job again because they're open, because it won't work like that. And that's what Labor's saying. That's what industry groups are saying. And I just think that that's important to remember.
I absolutely agree with you, Robbo. As we come out of this, we've got to make sure people aren't left behind. And that is going to be the big test for this government. All right, moving on. An outspoken feminist, Clementine Ford, was the talk of the town over the weekend when she sent out this tweet. And I quote, "Honestly, the coronavirus isn't killing men fast enough." Not surprisingly, the tweet caused outrage, condemnation coming from all sides. Ford was recently awarded a grant from the Melbourne City Council to help artists through the pandemic, and people like Darren Hinch want the money taken back. The Melbourne City Council Mayor, Sally Capp, said the comments were deliberately divisive and distasteful, and the grant is now under review. Ford maintained her position for most of the weekend before issuing an apology. And I will quote, "And because some men, not all of them, clearly need context explained to them, the Corona tweet was in response to this article outlined yet again the unpaid domestic burden men place on women because they can't care for their own kids." Now, earlier in that thread, she had actually apologised and taken responsibility. And Ben, I've got to say, isn't that fair enough? She's taken responsibility. Do we now need to take away grants and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think that sometimes we need to, I think this generation importantly needs to understand consequences. If you look at Roseanne Barr, when she was taken off her award-winning hit show because of one particular tweet, I think sometimes people need to understand that they can't say things like this. I mean, this is how sometimes feminists get a bad name, is because they go to extremes and say something outrageous like this to get attention. I can see through this and I can see where she's coming from, and there are some validity in what she's saying, but she would never have got that point across unless she created a controversial sounding board, and that is all this lady is doing. I don't necessarily think what the grant being given to her now seems like it's the right idea. So if people who are in the right, people who are, overseeing that, if they want to take that money away, I think that seems fair.
That just seems like PR spin to me. Look, Robbo, I've got to be honest, when I first saw the tweet, I was just like, are you serious? But realisation is a really important thing to me. And I understand she held her ground for most of the weekend, but she did come out and say, I got it wrong. This is the point I'm trying to make. Now, she is extreme and everything Ben said is correct. But I don't know, I actually admire someone who can look at something and go, you know what? I look back, I've made a mistake. Do we need to take the money?
Yes. I think this was a really stupid tweet. So let me go for that thing. I think it was a really stupid tweet. She did hold her position for a long time, as you mentioned. Also, the apology was an apology wrapped in kind of a, up yours kind of thing. So it wasn't a great apology. It was also a bit of what I liked in it, though, is that the tweet was she kind of did the reverse, like mansplaining, which obviously we all hate, and mansplaining is awful. But she kind of had to, if I've got to explain it to people, doing that kind of onto men as well. I know that women are more at the victims of that mansplaining thing, but it was just interesting, the language, the way that she decided to go back. This was a stupid.
I do not mansplain. I robsplain. I just assume nobody else understands what I understand. It's not because I'm a man and you're a woman, or I'm a man and you're a man. I just think I'm better.
Oh my God!
I'm joking.
I think you just made yourself sound like.
No.
I think you just
know
made
that you're not
yourself sound
joking.
really stupid.
There
Yeah,
are
I
some
know that you're not
topics I
joking.
know what I'm talking about. A lot of other things I'm willing to be put in my place.
And you know what, Rob? We can't wait to finally get one of those topics on this show that you know what you're talking about. We're very excited when that happens. I'm kidding. Yes, but in wrapping, I just think if you've got someone who has those kind of ideas, should they be given money? Yeah, and I hate cancel culture. I really do.
Well, that's it.
But this was
You're playing a part of
this
it.
was dumb. But I agree with Ben.
You're
There needs to
becoming
be
part of
consequences.
cancel culture. We've got something over her. She said something wrong. Let's take it away from her.
Oh, come on.
There needs to be
What about that
consequences.
Roseanne scenario? Did you think that Roseanne deserved
No.
to be fired once she
No, I
moved
didn't.
the racist tweet?
I don't either,
What? Are
actually.
you joking?
No, because
okay.
I don't think her intention, like she has even said, and Roseanne's a bit mad, and she's very right wing. And what happened was she said something stupid, but I actually don't think
Yeah.
there was racist intent behind what she said. Yes, it
I
came
agree.
across racist for sure, but I think she was attacking the woman, not the color of her skin. And for that
Absolutely,
reason,
that's what she was doing. But what we need to understand is that we need to look at the origins of where these sorts of things come from. And let me
Isn't
tell you,
intent
with this
important, though.
Yes, intent is important, and people should be made accountable for things when they do things that are wrong. I have done things wrong that I've had to apologize for in my life, and there was consequences for those things, and I understand that. That's really important in communication, relationship, and progress. You know, for this woman, had she had seen a tweet exactly the same, but we changed the pronouns, she would have gone absolutely ballistic after a man that said something like this, and that's why, for this woman, for this particular situation, not Roseanne, this particular situation, she needs to have the rap over the knuckles and there needs to be a consequence. And that, my friend, is something that we don't see enough of these days. People need to understand consequences.
And so I would also add to that really quickly, Rob. Sorry, I'd add to that really quickly. She's let the side down. Now, you are up against feminism and women. They've got an uphill struggle, and I don't discount that, and I fully appreciate that they have been oppressed for, forever, really, and I think that they've got an uphill battle. But what happens is you've still got to play the game a little bit. So what you do here is you take the varnish, or you take the shine off a really good argument that she has. And she has a lot of great arguments about women, about mothering, about parenting, about women's roles in society. But when you do something like this, you let the side down, because then everyone just goes, oh, no, just she's too extreme. She's too this. Now, she might not be.
agree.
No, I'm not saying she's hysterical. You know, when men just go, oh, women are hysterical. I hate that. I hate that when that happens. But at the same time, you've got to be a smarter operator when you're dealing with this massive mound of men who don't like being told that they're wrong and don't like being pointed out the bad things that they've done. This is just bad, and I would think that maybe feminism and women might be kind of disappointed with this.
Look, I couldn't agree more, and I will say that, Ben, just to wrap this up, I think you've made a lot of good points. I think you've both made a lot of good points, but the idea that if the shoe was on the other foot, like if it was a man who had tweeted that about women, I do think it would have gone off big time.
Absolutely.
And so you've actually swayed me with that specific argument. Having said that, I do think there is do think there is a consequence happening in this day and age when people do the wrong thing. I just get concerned about cancel culture, and she also was big enough to apologise. So very good points, everyone. Well done. All right. And I don't mean to sound condescending when I say that. I just mean
Rob's explained. You just explained a compliment.
No, you just genuinely made me change my mind, and that doesn't happen often. All right. Well, it was the promo that promised so much and delivered nothing. For days, 60 Minutes had been promoting a tell-all interview with Carl and Jackie O. Take a look.
Night on 60 Minutes.
I'm not his mother.
The loudest voices in Australia.
I thought he was a disaster.
I was a disaster.
Kyle and Jackie O's.
I don't give a
20 years of radio mayhem. But is it all about to end?
He's crying. Why?
There's a condition that I've been diagnosed with that I haven't spoken to anyone about.
Pretty heavy stuff. So when the story was finally aired last night, the so-called revelation was nothing but a joke.
He's crying.
Oh.
Why?
Well, there's a condition that I've been diagnosed with that I haven't spoken to anyone about.
Are you joking?
Yeah.
Holy moly! Why would you do that?
What do you
Why
mean?
would you do that? I genuinely.
Oh, don't start crying.
You had me so. You so had
No,
me.
that is emotionally mean.
Yeah.
That was really.
Well, understandably, viewers were not happy being led down the garden path. Darren Hinch tweeted, anybody who has ever been diagnosed with terminal cancer and had to tell loved ones would not appreciate Carl Sandilands' joke tonight. Entertainment reporter Peter Ford also let his feelings known. One thing for Carl and Jackie O to pull a prank about a life-threatening illness, that's on brand. Different thing for 60 Minutes to use it in a promo, knowing they wouldn't be delivering. That's off-brand. Ben, a couple of questions here. Is there anything wrong with what 60 Minutes did? And if so, who's in the wrong? Is it Carl for making the joke or 60 Minutes for turning that into a big promo?
Oh, we live in a society where we have to say who's right and wrong, don't we? Oh, that
Yes.
person's responsible and that person isn't. Look, that's not exactly the truth here. And the truth over all of this is that Carl Sandilands is a product that we created here in Australia. We have rewarded him time and time again for his antics. I will say something quite controversial, and that is that I quite like Carl Sandilands and I love that show, and I've been tuning in for its whole 20 years. I am listening to that show and I like it. And that sort of humour works well for me. However, take that out of its context and play Kyle Sandilands' story on 60 Minutes and people are shocked that he made a joke like this. When I watched it last night, I knew, because I'd been previously told, and I reported that on the show last week, that that was going to be a joke. I knew that ad was a lead up to nothing. I knew it was a joke. We brought it up on the show. And I just still think that's on brand for Kyle Sandilands. 60 Minutes, bit of a tired brand, if you ask me, and they're looking for a headline. They had the footage. They captured a lot of footage. They travelled to LA for it. You know, they filmed this 6 months ago. They had plenty of opportunity to tell a different story. They chose to tell this story. People are upset about it, and that's where we have it. I don't necessarily think anyone is particularly to blame here, you know.
I completely disagree, but there's some context here, and I want to show you a clip from Carl and Jackie O. And before I speak on this at all, I must declare I occasionally appear on the Carl and Jackie O show. I have worked with them. I do like them, and so please, if you want to call me biased,
But you could still have an Rob. Can I just say this?
I've got a very
but that's the thing. We need to quickly say, yeah, I get that, and you know, you're getting a lot of airtime today, so let me speak. But what I would say is, no, it's true. But like, just because you're on this show doesn't mean you need to jerk off Kyle Sandilands. Sorry for the pun.
No,
but like, you can still have an opinion. And he wouldn't care saying anything about you either. Like, just because, I mean, I just don't see the relevance.
No,
I didn't think the disclosure was necessary. You can have an opinion on Kyle Sandilands.
Yes,
the show goes for an hour. It doesn't go for 2 hours.
But I have been paid by the Carl and Jackie O show, so I have to disclose that fact and disclose we're talking about Carl and Jackie O, so people might perceive there's a bias if I defend him, which I'm about to do. So that's why I mentioned what I mentioned. But let's have a listen to his explanation this morning on the Carl and Jackie O show.
The honest truth as to why I was so able to cry, like all that breakdown stuff, so easy, was because inside I'm very sad. I'm not joking. Like inside my person,
yeah,
I'm very sad.
Oh, sweetie, don't you make me cry?
I don't mean to, but like, and it wasn't the right forum to bring that up. So, and then I thought, oh God, I'm crying. Like, because when you said I'm very worried about him, like a wave of emotion went through me. And then I realized, oh shit, I'm losing control here.
And the walls went back up.
Yeah. And then, so I had to make up that something was wrong. So, like, as a joke. But
it was real emotion.
It was real emotion. That's why you didn't know what was going on. But like, yeah, like you look at me and you think, you know, yeah, well, you're a fat bastard, and you know, yeah, you should be sad, or you've got everything.
No.
Why would you want to be? But there is a great sadness in me that I just carry around.
So that was him, and which suggests to me that I feel, and Carl Stefanovic and 60 Minutes really missed something, because if he's given that response, and I mean, I don't think Carl's that good an actor to have those tears about doing a joke. I would have definitely pushed harder on that. But the reason I wanted to outlay everything I did before, Ben, is because I think Carl did nothing wrong. If he can say whatever jokes he wants, it's up to 60 Minutes. There's no dramas including that in the story. but the way they sold it was the way they sold that story was completely outrageous. Now, they have made an editorial decision to diminish the brand of 60 Minutes by making that choice. As a promo producer, I have made 60 Minutes promos over the years, and I can tell you I never would have been allowed to pull that crap. And having said that, I am not a saint. I have put things in promos that have skewed stories and skewed, like I'll tell you one trick I use. One time, someone was just wiping their eye, and I slowed it down and made it look like they were crying for a current affair promo. So, hand on heart, I have done these things. I know all the tricks they use. But the biggest problem is you don't do that with 60 Minutes. Yes, you push the envelope. You can say this is the biggest story you'll ever see. This is the biggest investigation of the year. That's all right. But you promised something significant. You promised a medical revelation from Carl Sandilands today that you did not deliver. And that's the problem, don't you think, Ben?
It's competitive. Like, that's what's happening these days. 60 Minutes is now resorting to something that other TV shows, including yourself, have been doing for years. Like, I get that 60 Minutes previously had this, supreme brand, but it hasn't had that supreme brand in a long time. And if they want the ratings to get back to where they want it to be, they need to engage in a different audience, in a different generation as well. So, like, maybe what they were trying to do was engage with an audience that they thought would appreciate this the way that it happened. Like, as I said before,
their viewers, pure and simple.
But everybody does that. Everybody's BSing.
Not to this extent with the 60 Minutes brand. Seriously, I'm sorry, but...
Can I just quickly say something, though? But, for you personally, you lead people to a lot of your entertainment stories by saying exclusive, and people get really upset about that because a lot of the times it would probably be questionable as to whether or not they are exclusives or whether or not you're just...
I do not put the word... and this is the thing that social media gets me. They say just because they see exclusive appear a lot on the TV Black Box website, they go, oh, they can't have that many exclusives. Yes, we can. We've got great bloody contacts, and I'm not going to apologise for stamping an exclusive on a story that I got from my sources that no one else has. What is so genuinely wrong with that? I don't understand that commentary.
Because I think what I'm trying to make a point here by saying that you try and use the word exclusives as a loss leader to get someone to watch a program, and not always are those exclusives deemed by everybody to be an exclusive. So I think it's just a way that you need to understand that promoting people these days, and you do it yourself, needs to have a bit of, oomph and a bit of a beat up and a bit of smoke blown into it to get people to...
I challenge
it's
anyone.
It's a competitive marketplace these days.
Exclusive on. I challenge anyone to
you put
prove
Big
that
Brother,
that was
you
incorrect.
told us that Big Brother was. You told us that Big Brother was coming back, where in actual fact it had been tweeted by another journalist a week previously. So that's just one incident.
Hang on, there was a difference. I acknowledged that tweet and confirmed that it was coming back and had the details about it. And I fully acknowledged Peter Ford when I did that. But I had exclusive information in that story. So therefore, I stand by the word exclusive on that headline.
But what I'm trying to say is I'm not trying to upset you. I'm not trying to make this a controversial thing. But I need for you to understand that working in the media these days, it's a very difficult landscape to try and engage with people, to engage with viewers. It's almost like a dying medium in some ways when the younger generation are no longer watching TV. We have to try and engage with people and get them to watch these shows. And I can tell you that I reckon 80% of ads that I see these days are a big beat up, leading me to something that's a bit of a letdown. And that's just the way that things go.
Yeah, look. The big thing with the promo is that it's one thing to push it, but if there's going to be a tremendous letdown at the end of it, then you have failed in your job. Yes, we push the limits when we come to promos, but on the whole, as a promo producer, you do what you think will get people there, knowing they won't be disappointed if they actually watch it. The problem here, Robbo, is there's no one walking away from that story who wasn't disappointed, right?
There would have to be, everyone is in trouble with that, right? So a couple of things here. This delivered nothing. There was no big health announcement. There was no big bombshell. It was nothing, and they knew it. I find it sad for everyone. Exactly right, Rob. I find it sad for everyone. 60 Minutes, a wonderful brand, over 40 years. I'm sad for 60 Minutes, really, to be honest. I think this was very poor. I did see one comment where someone said that even a current affair wouldn't have gone this low. This
I
is a
agree.
sad state of affairs. Yeah, this is a really, really, really terrible, because overall it was quite good. I also agree with you that Karl Stefanovic missed a massive opportunity. Now, a good interviewer would look at someone and go, and they even talked about this earlier in the interview, he puts up a mask. Everyone does that. Everyone who's sad and does a comedic job. I do it all the time. I deflect with humour. He identified that, but then didn't press it and thought that this was going to be the better headline. This is a editorial failure on Karl's part, an editorial failure on the producer and the executive producer. This is really sad, because what we saw with Kyle this morning, that was good stuff, and that was real, and we saw what happened. And I feel so sad that we missed that story, though, from Kyle.
But can I just quickly Ben-splain something to the two of you? And I know that I've spoken a lot here, but at the end of the day, they were telling a story about Kyle Sandilands, and they managed to encapsulate that story because a part of his brand is that he's a prankster like this that takes things too far.
Now, when that's Kyle's brand, that's not 60 Minutes brand. The 60 Minutes brand is not.
But they told the story.
Lied to the audience. They are
100%.
nothing but fake news now, based on that. Just what they've done over this weekend, they are now considered fake news. We cannot trust
and that's really
anything
sad.
they say.
Really sad. Really sad.
I don't know. I actually felt like, I was a little bit disappointed that there probably wasn't more meat in the story, but I certainly didn't care about the fact that he led us, down the garden path with his health. Maybe because I watched
60
it.
Minutes, though. Do you care about the 60 Minutes, though? Kyle didn't do anything wrong here.
I think they still painted a story that encapsulated Kyle Sandilands. Like, the thing was, that's the sort of stuff that he does. They were telling a story about him, and I think that they delivered with that. Kyle Sandilands made a joke on the show that was controversial. That's who Kyle Sandilands is.
They turned it into they turned it into fakeness. They turn it into fake.
Correct.
So Kyle does his jokes, that's fine. Let's do it, look at all the pranks, let's do all that kind of thing. But 60 Minutes then took a prank and then presented it to the national audience going, there's a big health scare and will he make it and will he die? All that crap, really. Let's say what it is. That's
for anyone out there,
version over of branding.
Yeah. I just want to quickly say for anyone out there that I think for anyone that's out there that has lost someone and has had a family member tell them that they are dying, I absolutely can understand that that's in poor taste. I feel really bad because my sense of humor is a little bit warped, and I find that sort of thing a bit funny, and I probably have done things very similar. But I guess in hindsight, I do feel for people who would have been watching 60 Minutes that had been that scenario had been.
He didn't say he had cancer. He didn't say he had a life. Terminal disease. He didn't say anything like that. He just said he had a condition. So when Darren Hinch comes along and says, this is pretty rough for people who've had cancer, of course it would be. He didn't make that joke. That's the difference. He just said he had a condition.
But also, the point of the story, and we're wrapping this up because Aaron is standing by in the Ticker newsroom and has been waiting while we've debated this for 10 minutes.
Sorry, Aaron.
What we need to acknowledge is that the producers made a decision. I don't think there was anything wrong with that being in the story. They made a decision to sell it on a false narrative. And that is the problem here. All right. It is time to get a hit of news headlines with the one and only Aaron Young, the very patient Aaron Young, who's in the Ticker newsroom. Hello, Aaron. What's making news today?
Turn his sound on.
Don't push it. Let's check the news headlines. China has warned Australia to distance itself from the United States amid growing tensions between the two countries, saying it would be extremely dangerous for Canberra to get involved. Beijing says any show of support for the US will deliver our economy a fatal blow. China, Australia's biggest trading partner, Australia relies on the US for security. If you think you're better off thanks to JobKeeper payments than you were before the lockdown, look out. The government is able to undertake a secret audit. Treasury now wants to know how many workers are legally getting a pay rise under the JobKeeper scheme than they previously earned. Australia's international good exports in April have retreated from the record highs of the previous month, although demand from our natural resources remains strong. Merchandise exports fell by $4 billion or by 4% versus the previous month. The UK government may reverse its decision to allow Chinese telco Huawei to take part in British 5G networks. It comes after the US brought fresh sanctions on the Chinese company, citing security fears. In January, the UK resisted US pressure to ban Huawei from contributing to 5G. Data from millions of mobile phones shows varying behaviour as people respond to the loosening of stay-at-home orders. In the US, visits to schools and colleges were down nearly 80% compared to early March, but grocery and specialty food stores saw an increase by 17%. Let's have a look at the weather map for the remainder of the day. Melbourne heading for some clouds and 15 degrees. Sydney 17 degrees, sunny in Brisbane and 24 degrees. Perth 18 degrees and overcast for Adelaide, a top of 14. The local market now, shares have been pretty high, which is good news. They've jumped by over 1.5% in early trade. All sectors bouncing back after a weak finish on Friday. At the open, the ASX 200 up by 78 points or 1.4%, now hovering at just over 5,500 points. You are watching Ticker, of course. Now you're up to date. Back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Aaron. Appreciate it. We will see you tomorrow. All right, when you think of gold prospecting, you might think it's something that happened in the past, but there are still plenty of prospectors out there who are willing to risk their lives. Bering Sea Gold follows miners in Alaska as they search for the ultimate payday.
There are pockets of gold that are yet undiscovered. The possibilities are endless.
We're on gold, baby! Mayday, mayday, catastrophic dire failure.
This is history right here. This is the end of the Myrtle Irene.
I don't know if you want to call it risk or just call it gold mining.
Emily Rydell is one of the prospectors featured in the Discovery series, and she joins me now. Hi, Emily. What an amazing journey you're on.
Hey, Rob. Thanks so much for having me.
Aren't there easier ways to make a living?
Yes, that is what I hear. I hear reports that there are better ways and easier ways to make money, but it falls on deaf ears up here, unfortunately.
Now, look, I've got to be honest, I've only just discovered this series, but I am absolutely hooked. Just explain to us what underwater prospecting and what is involved with it.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you've discovered the series. I myself am still discovering, and I actually haven't seen an episode since season 1, and now we're on season 9. So it's always weird to see footage from it because I'm like, oh yeah, that happened. You know? But basically, the way that the offshore deposit, gold deposit here works is that it's ancient beach lines that are still fairly accessible and in fairly shallow water. So this is kind of a unique corner of the world where people can take out boats with minor to major dredging equipment. It's in relatively shallow water, so it's accessible via our equipment and our divers. But there's just so much risk involved. There's financial risk, there's physical risk. It's a dangerous job, regardless of whether you're diving or you're operating an excavator or a clamshell. There's just a lot of costs, like hidden costs involved. It's a difficult part of the world to even get to. You can only get to Nome via air or sea. And then once you're here, everything is stacked against you for failure. Not only your equipment and the dangers of the Bering Sea, but just the erratic weather. As gold mining should be, it's a classic job that sets you up to fail a lot of the time.
You mentioned it's dangerous. Just how dangerous is it? Is your life on the line at times?
Yeah, I mean, at times, certainly. I mean, in general, when you're out on any kind of ocean, especially one as tempestuous as the Bering Sea, there is inherent danger thereof. But you know, we're operating heavy machinery with extraordinarily large amounts of weight strapped to us underwater in waters that typically tend to be low visibility, pretty murky. And, you know, if you're operating a very powerful suction hose in murky water, things are bound to happen. And then, you know, there's inherent dangers in our dive equipment itself, you know, air surface supply, lots of lines in the water, lots of really unpredictable currents and weather patterns. So it's all over the place.
And you're dealing with different conditions, aren't you? Because sometimes you're literally camped out on frozen ice and creating holes and going underneath that. And that's got its own dangers. I saw one scene where the air cord to the diving suit got stuck in the ice. And so there are these unthought of dangers that happen out there.
Yeah, we decided that, you know, mining on the Bering Sea just wasn't exciting enough. So we added in an ice as well, just to take a hard job and make it even worse. So that's a whole other ballgame. Our ice mining season. We actually just wrapped up our season recently, our ice season, and it was just a reminder of how brutal it can be. You know, you're diving in 30-degree water under 5 feet of ice, and you can only imagine all the things that can go wrong.
Absolutely. How did you get started in this business?
I had a very unusual start. I can't say that it was in my family. I can't say that it was a job that I had any kind of preparation for at all. I wanted to be an opera singer, and I graduated.
Really?
Yeah. I graduated
Wow.
from art school. I wanted to get a master's degree, which of course is very expensive, and I needed a summer job, and I grew up in Alaska, and I've worked in the fisheries and other careers up here to make a quick buck, and gold mining seemed to be a viable option at the time. So that was almost 10 years ago now.
Now, coming in late to the series, one of the things I'm a little bit confused about is your relationship with Zeke. Can you explain that to me?
Yeah, Zeke was a childhood friend, and we grew up together. Our parents were friends in high school. We grew up in the same town in Alaska, and he was up here gold mining before I was, and he sort of invited me up, and my dad, and basically everybody he knew. I think he just wanted to have friends up here.
Yeah.
And we had a rocky relationship for a couple of years, a rocky friendship, and we're friends now. We're cool now. I mean, I think we kind of started off as partners. It got a little bit murky, and then I went my own way and he went his.
And you, since going your own way, have you found that a better experience for you?
Yeah, going my own way was the only way, really. Yeah. I mean, it's very chaotic up here, and really, I just decided that even though I was inexperienced and I didn't really know what I was doing, it had to be better than what I was experiencing so far. So I bought my own boat, took a huge risk with that. I also had a couple of close calls diving, and I decided that it wasn't productive for me to be a diver anymore. So I needed another avenue for success up here, and so that ended up being, being a boat owner, being a captain. And I'm really happy I made that choice. This is now my 8th year this year as a boat owner, and I'm happy with it.
Amazing. Well, you're one of the few women doing this, and I found this scene really interesting as it talked about your motivation.
I have something to prove to Zeke. I have something to prove to everybody up here. I'm a woman who has no background in this business whatsoever. Nothing short of absolute success in gold mining will justify me being here. I can't be average. I have to be something exceptional. Otherwise, nobody will take me seriously.
Do you still feel you have something to prove?
That was a minute ago. I'm looking at my hair and I'm kind of like, dang, I was making good hair choices back then. Not that the fundamental premise of that scene isn't also important.
I get it. It's fine.
Yeah, you know. But absolutely, I have something to prove. I mean, I feel kind of bad for the Emily back then because I was so focused on how people perceived me. And I think today I'm really more focused on making sure that I run a safe, highly productive and highly gold productive business, and it's all about how hard I work and how much money I and my crew make. That's what really matters. And what people want to believe about me, that's their God-given right. And
Yeah,
I'm not
absolutely.
going to object to it. I only hope that eventually I can prove wrong, but
Well, I think you are. I mean, you survived 9 seasons, you've just pointed out. You've been doing it by yourself. Are you coming out in front financially? Is it paying off for you?
yes.
Excellent.
Yes, we've done well. We've had a good seasons. And the last 5 years have actually been pretty consistently good. Not always as good as I want them to be by any means, but the boat's been performing well. The crew's been performing well.
Excellent. One last question. What is the craziest thing that's happened while prospecting?
Ooh. That's a hard one. I think I mean I'd have to sit down with you, Rob, and have a beer or whatever it is you guys drink.
Oh, I like that.
We should do that. I've been meaning to come to Australia, so we should meet up for a cold one of these days.
If you come to Australia, you hook me up, you call me, we'll look after you. And if I come to Alaska, I am knocking on your door.
Please do. Yeah, that'd be great. Sounds like a plan. But
Emily?
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, what comes to mind is the most recent one. It happened this last season, and I'm sure it's going to be on the show when it comes out. But we were late in the season, and it was a beautifully flat, calm day, and the sun was shining. And then out of nowhere, this huge squall from the south just came and like engulfed and enveloped the boat, and it was like 0 dark 30. It went from flat calm to incredible waves, and we barely got out in time. So that's just one example of what here.
Yeah. Scary stuff. Emily, you are an absolute pleasure, and the show is just phenomenal. So many characters, and you play such a big part in it. It is great watching your journey. I'm seriously, I think I'm going to have to go back and watch every episode, because I've come in, and you can jump into this series at any point. I've discovered that, but I'm getting so into it. I actually want to go back and watch the progression and the journey. So congratulations on being in such a great series.
Well, thank you. Thanks for watching. I'm so glad that you're checking it out now, and it was lovely talking to you as well, Rob.
Great talking to you. Thanks for being on the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show.
All right, sounds good. Adios then.
It's the red light shot of the day. Where are you going today? You never know where you'll end up with the red light shot of the day.
And today we're taking you to Rays Bay in Sydney. It's a rainy day in the harbour city with a high of just 16 degrees after a low of 14. Let's take a quick look at some of the feedback coming in to the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. And Leonardo says, I watched that scene. Oh, no, that's not Leonardo. Let's bring up Leonardo. I'll send that through. Leonardo says, I watched that scene from Ambulance. When you think of someone who has just killed your wife, you don't think of the person they're admitting it to. Being calm and thinking of a little girl's party being spoiled. Incredibly powerful. Yes, I agree. Peter says, Ben, your comments about Tracy Grimshaw were also quite controversial and extreme to some people as well. Food for thought. Madston says, if Clementine Ford was someone from the right, she would more likely lose the grant and face the cancer culture warriors. Peter says, Ben is exposing the hypocrisy in the industry. Good on him. Where are the ethics in the media anymore? Refreshing to have this conversation. And it was a good conversation. Hannah says, oh my gosh, Ben, I love you. Michael says, I agree with Ben here, but excellent discussion, guys. Jeanette says, have to agree with Robert and Robbo with ACA. Promos should deliver what they promote. One final one from Jason. I'm sorry, Ben, I totally disagree with you, Carl on 60 Minutes. I fully 100% agree with Rob and Robbo. 60 Minutes did not go to a new low. 60 Minutes did go to a new low, and now the brand has been dirtied. All right, thank you for your feedback as always. Now it's time for an entertainment hit with Ben.
And making entertainment news is Pixar. Over the weekend, if you have Disney Plus, you might have been able to enjoy a very special 9-minute short movie, which is the first time Pixar have dealt with same-sex couples. We've got a clip right now from the short film Out.
Greg, look what I found.
Remember this?
I remember you hated camping.
Think you might hang it someplace other than your sock drawer?
Once we're in the city, I'll hang it right out in the open. I promise.
And if your mom and dad decide to visit?
Ha! That'll never happen.
Happy moving day! Ah!
It's them. They're here.
Greg,
what are they doing here? I don't know, but you gotta go. I'll call you later, okay?
Tell them.
What's absolutely brilliant about this short film is that it's talking to kids about honesty. And from the reactions over the weekend, while people were slightly worried about kids watching a cartoon with a same-sex couple, the kids only picked up on the lessons that were being learned, and that is that sometimes being truthful is the best policy. And also over the weekend, Channel 7, only 2 weeks away, have finally revealed that Big Brother will launch on Sunday the 7th of June. There is a mix of housemates that have definitely stirred up a bit of controversy as to whether or not they're going to deliver. But I will say one thing, Big Brother is back for 2020 like we've never seen before. And I, for one, can't wait to check it out. And these are just some of the news stories going around the internet at the moment and on the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show.
Thank you very much, Ben. And now it's time for Robbo.
Sorry, Rob there. Thank you very much. Well, last night was a little fishy on MasterChef Australia. That's because the contestants were competing in a double challenge with fish. But unfortunately, in the end, Season 6 favourite Tracy was left floundering. Have a look.
Tracy, your dish didn't look so good given the beautiful piece of fish butchery that you were given. Your fish was also overcooked. And the dish lacked acidity, just offered no relief from the sauce. Tracy, I'm sorry, you're going home.
It's all good. Thank you so much. Well done. It's all good. It's all good. Well done, though. Well done.
Well, what is the kitchen's loss is our gain. Tracy joins us now on the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. Tracy, good afternoon to you. Welcome to the show. How are you feeling?
Thank you. Well, that was a bit emotional because that was actually the first time I've watched that. My internet actually went on the fritz last night, so I didn't get to watch the ending. But that was okay because I was pretty sure I knew how it ended. But yeah, seeing that for the first time, it was a bit emotional.
So just then, that was actually the first time that you've seen that. You didn't see the episode before it went to air, and obviously you said you didn't watch it last night. So just seeing it then,
yeah,
that was hard.
Yeah.
Now, you know what? Seafood is, well, you've got to say your bloody nemesis, I think. In Season 6, you had some issues with a lobster. Then this time it was the bloody kingfisher fish that you had there. Do you think you'll ever eat seafood again?
Well, I think the key thing here is I need to stay away from cooking it. I like it ceviche, raw. You're away from the cooking part.
Now, you just missed out on the top spot, but you came in 12th. Not as great as what your Season 6 result was, but is the pressure more on in this season of MasterChef?
Yeah, absolutely. Walking in that first time and looking at everybody on their benches was completely, reality struck that I had walked into something pretty epic, and the competition was great. Yeah.
Well, it was really apparent last night that there is such a delicate balancing act between undercooking fish and overcooking fish. Firstly, is there much of a difference? And secondly, does it actually taste different?
Yeah, so I think the big challenge with me last night in particular, as you can see when you're looking at the dish, part of the skill that we need to apply is also when to apply certain elements. And I set the fish in the sauce and had been sitting there for a few minutes, and it doesn't take long for the fish to be cooked from, normal fish can get cooked from, lemon and olive oil. So I had it sitting there, so it just kept cooking away. And that's why you sort of see my face going when he says it was overcooked, because it originally I was very happy with the cook. It was actually undercooked, but that sauce kept it going.
Yep.
And my bad.
Well, fair enough. Now, we've got a really important question to ask you. We ask everyone this. What is for your tea tonight?
Oh, what is for my tea tonight? Pasta. Pasta and pesto tonight.
Any seafood?
Not tonight. Didn't catch any of it yesterday, so I feel a bit to lean. So.
Wonderful. Well, Tracy, thank you so much for joining us here on the Ben, Rob and Robbo Show. We can't wait to see what you do next, and have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Cheers. Thanks.
That was Tracy there, the latest eliminated contestant from MasterChef Australia. And the whiskers and the bakers and the stirrers, if you want to follow the remaining contestants' journey, then you can join them tonight, MasterChef on 10 and win. Rob?
Thank you, Robbo. Well, that brings us to the end of the Ben, Rob and Robbo show for another day. What a jam-packed day. Guys, are we all okay?
We're totally fine. This is why we're not just co-hosts, we're actually friends, and we can have a normal debate, and that's where we should be going in this country. Having a debate with your friends.
Absolutely.
And not killing them afterwards.
Well, let's see what happens. All right, we'll see you tomorrow on the Ben, Rob and Robbo show.
I might not be here tomorrow.
It's the Ben, Rob and Robbo, Ben, Rob and Robbo show. Ben, Rob and Robbo.